that I find really quite remarkable. One portion of the book says babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Another portion of the book, they recommend to babies confess when being racist. Now, this is a book that is taught at Georgetown Day School to students in pre-K through second grade, so 4 through 7 years old.
Man, that clip says a lot. Senator Ted Cruz came into that hearing prepared with direct quotes, actual books, and tough questions. And honestly, it felt like he was saying what a lot of parents across America have been thinking. The biggest issue here is simple. Should young kids be exposed to ideas that push race into everything at such an early age? That's the question Ted Cruz kept pressing, and I think many people watching wanted a clearer answer. No matter where you stand politically, parents have every right to question what children are being taught in schools. And whether people agree with Cruz or not, Cruz was willing to confront the issue head-on instead of dancing around it. Welcome back to America Wake. I'm Wilson, and today we're breaking down this heated exchange between Ted Cruz and Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. If you believe parents deserve transparency in education and leaders should answer direct questions directly, hit that like button, subscribe to America Wake, and let me know your thoughts in the comments.
So, Judge Jackson, all of us will agree that no one should be discriminated against because of race. When you just testified a minute ago that you didn't know if critical race theory was taught in K through 12, I will confess I find that statement a little hard to reconcile with the public record, because if you look at the Georgetown Day School's curriculum, it is filled and overflowing with critical race theory. That among the books that are either assigned or recommended, they include Critical Race Theory, an introduction. They include The End of Policing, an advocacy for abolishing police. They include How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi. They include literally stacks and stacks of books, and I'll tell you two of the ones that were most stunning. They include a book called Anti-Racist Baby by Ibram Kendi. And there are portions of this book that I find really quite remarkable. One portion of the book says babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Another portion of the book, they recommend to babies confess when being racist. Now, this is a book that is taught at Georgetown Day School to students in pre-K through second grade, so 4 through 7 years old. Do you agree with this book that is being taught with kids that babies are racist?
Senator, I do not believe that any child should be made to feel as though they are racist or though they are not valued or though they are less than, that they are victims, that they are oppressors. I don't believe in any of that. But what I will say is that when you asked me whether or not this was taught in schools, critical race theory, my understanding is that critical race theory as an academic theory is taught in law schools, and to the extent that you were asking the question, I understood you to be addressing public schools. Georgetown Day School, just like the religious school that Justice Barrett was on the board of, is a private school.
Okay, so you agree critical race theory is taught at Georgetown Day School?
I don't know, because the board is not, the board does not control the curriculum. The board does not focus on that. That's not what we do as board members, so I'm actually not sure.
Well, and I'll note that the board is chaired by Professor Fairfax, your college roommate who introduced you yesterday, so the two of you serve on the board together. Another book that is on the summer reading for 3rd through 5th grade is a book called Stamped for Kids, again by Ibram Kendi. I read the entirety of the book, and I will say it is an astonishing book. On page 33, it asks the question, can we send white people back to Europe. That's on 33. That's what's being given to 8 and 9 years old. It also, on page 115, says the idea that we should pretend not to see racism is connected to the idea that we should pretend not to see color. It's called color blindness. Skipping ahead, here's what's wrong with this. It's ridiculous. Skin color is something we all absolutely see. Skipping ahead, so to pretend not to see color is pretty convenient if you don't actually want to stamp out racism in the first place. Now, what this book argues for is the exact opposite of what Dr. King spoke about on the floor of the Lincoln Memorial. And are you comfortable with these ideas being taught to children as young as 4 in respect to the first book, as young as 8 and 9 in respect to the second book?
Senator, I have not reviewed any of those books, any of those ideas. They don't come up in my work as a judge, which I'm respectfully here to address. In my work as a judge, which is evidenced from my near decade on the bench.
Okay, good. Then let's go back to your work as a judge.
All right, after watching the full clip, here's my takeaway. Ted Cruz clearly came prepared. Cruz wasn't throwing around random accusations. Cruz brought up specific books, specific passages, and examples connected to Georgetown Day School. When Cruz quoted lines from Anti-Racist Baby about babies being taught to be racist or anti-racist, I think a lot of parents watching were probably shocked. Most people simply don't think children, that young, should be learning ideas like that. Judge Jackson responded by saying the school board doesn't control the curriculum, and that may be true. But I think Cruz was trying to get a direct opinion on whether these kinds of teachings are appropriate for young kids. What stood out to me was that Cruz kept bringing the conversation back to the actual content being taught. That was the core issue the entire time. Another big moment was when Cruz compared these ideas to the message of Martin Luther King Jr. A lot of Americans grew up believing people should be judged by character, not skin color. So when schools start focusing heavily on race, many parents see that as moving in the wrong direction. Now, some people support critical race theory because they believe it helps explain history and inequality. That's their view. But many parents feel the focus has gone beyond history and into teaching children to see themselves through race first. That's why this debate has become so intense. And honestly, whether people like Ted Cruz or not, Cruz forced this conversation into the open. That's why this moment got so much attention. At the end of the day, this hearing wasn't just about one judge. It became a bigger debate about education, parenting, and the values being taught to the next generation. But I want to hear from you. Do you think Ted Cruz was asking the right questions, or do you think this issue is being blown out of proportion? Drop your thoughts below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to America Wake. I'm Wilson, and I'll catch you in the next one.